G'day and welcome to 5 Minutes at 5 with Gavin. Well, earlier today I was watching a little video about someone giving a riddle to their partner. And don't I struggle with riddles? I'm listening to one aspect of the story, but of course it's tricked me so I don't get the answer right in the end. I don't always have ears to hear what the clues are. Well, sometimes we have that same challenge when we're looking at the world that's going on around us and asking, God, where are you in it all? What's going on? Our world is changing really rapidly at the moment as we go through COVID, and for many of us we're having to adjust fairly quickly to certain circumstances. And what does the future hold when we're not quite sure? Well, I was reading Mark today, and what I found really interesting in Mark chapter 6 was the people of God were actually questioning what was going on as well. At the beginning of chapter 6, John the Baptist has been killed by Herod, and so there's questions about what is God doing? And people are starting to gather around Jesus and ask questions of Jesus. What's going on? What's going on? In fact, and they're probably prompting him, trying to find out who he is and what he's all about. They were probably hoping for a king that would bring probably a violent revolution to bring down the Roman Empire. But we know now that that wasn't Jesus' mission. And he breaks into this meeting with a miracle, which is quite a different miracle. He feeds them. God feeds the people food. Where's the violence in that? That's about nurture, sustenance, hospitality. This is the God we worship. I mean, that's a good God. They're meeting and they're gathering and they're getting hungry, and the disciples come to Jesus and says, Jesus, we need to feed them. We need to send them away, send them to go home. And Jesus says, why don't you feed them? What? How are they going to feed him? All they have is these 5 loaves and 2 fishes. But God does do a miracle. Jesus does do a miracle. He feeds them with this. And then there's an abundance over. The kingdom of God is about restorative justice. It's about healing. It's about feeding. And it's about abundance. And we don't always see these miracles, but God continues to break into our world. And I wonder what God is doing now, breaking into our world to do those things. Well, as I was thinking about the things that are going on in my life, I thought I'd bring you out to this spot. This is the spot on the way out to Karratha and Roebourne and Wickham, over to the coast. Really early on in my ministry here, about 6 years ago, I decided to take a day trip out to Karratha. I went on the access road and went off. It was supposed to be just a day's trip, 3 hours one way, 3 hours back, but my car broke down. I blew 2 spare tyres on the road. I couldn't believe it. I was stuck on the access road for 9 hours and had to do an overnight trip to Karratha. Well, sometime later I was down in Perth and I was at a pastors' conference, and this older gentleman, maybe in his 70s, came up to me and says, Gavin, you never drive into Pilbara without 2 spare tyres. Well, that man was Arthur Payne, and he was a pastor up here in the northwest throughout the 90s. I remember him as a boy, and we used to call him Uncle Arthur from Karratha. And I thought, I just want to bring you out here because on Sunday night he passed away. And he was instrumental for me coming up here. He wasn't the only reason, but he was a significant reason for me coming here. His passion and love for the Pilbara and for the people and the church was infectious, and it rubbed off on me. At some point in Arthur's life, he heard the call from Jesus saying, well, why don't you go? Why don't you go to the Pilbara and love the people there? And as that rubbed off, he fed me. Just like the disciples followed Jesus and he took that bread and took that fish and fed the people. It gave life, gave new life. We don't always know what God is doing. We don't always know. But he invites us to partner with him, and that's infectious. That brings life and hope to those around us. And then we can go out, and then we can have an impact on other people. God is working, and he's calling you and inviting you, come and be involved. I wonder what he's calling you to do today. and tomorrow. Well, I hope that's helpful. Thanks for joining me. And will you say a prayer for Arthur's wife Jane and his family? Thank you. Bye.
We need to be flexible in our ministry. What happens and what's suitable in ministry this year may not be suitable next year. We need to be willing to change in ministry. And that's, true of yourselves in your own lives. You need to be willing to change and do things differently.